Hello, hello. Good afternoon.
Good
Welcome
afternoon.
to another episode of Water Fed Wednesday. It's already episode, what are we, 13? Yes,
Episode 13.
the next big thing. So we'll talking about that. So if this is your first time, this is a Water Fed Wednesday where we go beyond the bucket and dive in the world of water fed cleaning, answer questions about our equipment, our business, and our goals of helping cleaners worldwide get the job done faster, safer, and better. So I'm your one of your hosts, Alex Brunner, and this is
Shawn, Gavin.
so as we look out, we got just a couple on, so we'll let the audience build up here. Just a couple of reminders. Once again, if this is the first time you're checking us out, you can view previous episodes over at our Facebook page. It's the RHG-Tucker Pole Systems, and our YouTube channel. That's at Tucker_USA. As always, let us know where you're watching from, what's up with you and your business, what's going on outside. Let us know what's going on. Just a reminder, we have our Black Friday sale happening now. So that's our Black Friday, Cyber Monday, whatever you want to call it, from now until the 1st. Is that right?
Whatever the Monday is, Cyber Monday. I know it's in December, maybe 1st or 2nd, something like that. So yeah, running for about a week and a half yet.
Right on. So what can you get? So we have a lot of options for you. We have our BOGO brushes. So once a year we have this opportunity to gather up brushes in preparation for next year um, as a thank you to our wonderful customers. Got that going on. 20% off screen cleaner, 20% off DI resin buckets, 20% off Rival Basic. We'll go into that a little bit later. 20% off poles off our 4060 and H2 Pro. So awesome deals to be had. Let's see. Who do we have on here? Got Jamie viewing in. How's it going, Jamie?
Jamie Hallman, Michigan. So
Yeah.
weather turning yet? I was chatting with some folks in Michigan the other day. It was still quite nice.
Yeah. While we were getting all that snow, they were
in the 70s.
Yeah. All right. So as I alluded to earlier, our topic of discussion is the next big thing. So while I was out last week, we were both doing separate shows. I actually had an opportunity to do a speaking gig there in Las Vegas. And one of the topics of discussion was Tucker innovation. Since 1957, Tucker was the original one to do it, the water fed. So we're always looking at how we can innovate the industry. So we want to chat about that. So we recently had a couple new products come out. We had the Rival V2 and our new RO membranes featuring the variable flow technology. So Shawn, what inspired this change? Maybe we can first talk about the Rival.
Yeah, the Rival V2. So, there's only so many ways that we can reinvent the wheel when it comes to entry-level price point multi-stage RO systems, right? So I think about it from a standpoint of user experience. And, traditionally it's been better tires, all these things. When we went from pneumatic tires that, you'd have to have air in it and kind of rust it out over a number of years, especially with the bypass water position where it is on these carts coming out right at the axles. And, we played around with some different things along that line and settled on our no flat wheels, which seemed to be a big hit. Obviously we played with different housings a year or two ago, maybe even 3 years now. We came out with the combo pre-filter where it's got the sediment carbon built in. So we're always trying to find ways to kind of tweak it and come up with better iterations of what's been very popular. But, I think about when people call in and they talk to tech support, or they're trying to figure out if they need to replace their RO and stuff like this. And it's not really all that easy to do technical checks on your system when they're designed to go through all three stages and you're asking them to isolate after the second stage and check it. So I got to thinking about that. And we have another system out on the market, the H2 Pro, that has this DI saver bracket built into the top, which is basically RO only, right? So in a lot of applications, people want just RO water. So we built in a really nice way to do that for them there. But I got to thinking about that RO only in the DI saver system. And this is the top of the new V2 rival cart. And so one of the things that makes the cart different, or the primary thing other than the new membrane technology, is the top. So at the top of the RO membrane, you've got traditionally, this is your inlet port from your pre-filter. And then right here on the center port of your RO, you would have the another elbow that would go to your DI. So that's your RO good water. So what we've done for the V2s, and this is standard, is we've built in this three-way valve to the top. And so if you want to run RO only, there's a valve here and it's labeled on the metal bracket. You just turn the valve to RO, and then water will come right out of this garden hose fitting. So you could hook up our Tucker reel right to the output here and run RO only if you were in an application where you wanted to have low TDS water, but you didn't need ultra pure or zero TDS water, right? So you can hook up right here. That bypasses your DI altogether, which is where most of your cost comes in from a maintenance standpoint. So that's really a nice impact to the user's bottom line. The cost per gallon is running RO only. The other thing that you can do is, if you're ever wondering about, is it time to replace my RO filter? Well, instead of disconnecting the other plumbing like you traditionally would have to do to isolate and check that RO, you just put it into RO mode and basically check the water here, right? And what we want, and what generally we see, is somewhere around 90% or more of the TDS coming into the system is removed at this point in the stage, right? So if it's coming in from the building at 100, you want 10 or less here. And if that's your situation, you can bypass your DI altogether, right? Why burn through DI resin if you've essentially got pure water? And so you can check it here. If you're not getting that, then you need to decide, okay, do I want to spend the money on my new RO membrane, or am I okay with a little less gallons through the DI from that standpoint? But that's basically what's built in there, is the ability to turn the valve and either send it out this port, which is a male garden hose thread, so it's not a proprietary port or anything. You can thread whatever you want on there, or send it to the DI, which would then send it from the RO onto the DI to polish off that final 10% of that RO water.
Awesome. Yeah, that is, really huge when we have our calls. And I was just thinking of some of the previous iterations. We added the pressure gauge to the rival a while back, so we can, help diagnose issues. So this is just another step to help you figure out what kind of issues you might be facing. So absolutely. Did you touch on TDS creep?
TDS creep.
Let's go into that.
So I did a video, I think it's still on our YouTube channel, probably more than 10 years ago now, with one of the caddies we had at the time. We were making the 4-stage caddy system, and I go into talking about TDS creep, and I think I have an inline TDS meter, so it kind of talks about it there. But not a lot of people talk about this phenomenon called TDS creep, right? So whenever you first put your RO membrane into production mode, right? So you close the bypass valve off, and you always still want some water out of the bypass, but ours are engineered to always give you the exact amount of good water and bad water, if you will. So you put it in the closed mode or the production mode. If you measure the water out of the RO only right away with the TDS meter, you'll notice that the water is high. So if it's coming in at 200, it's going to be close to 200 out of this RO port initially, right? And so let's say it takes 5 minutes for that 200 to drop to 20 or less, which is what you're looking for. If you get really technical about how you run your system and you leave it in RO only mode at first, then you check your water. Okay, it's 200. It might even be higher than 200 because some balance of bad water is in there too, right? So let's say it's 200 coming out. If you monitor it for a few minutes, it will drop. But in a traditional RODI cart, what happens is the water goes from that port through your DI filter. So you're sending that initial bad water through your DI filter to be filtered, right? So you're burning up your resin for a few moments each job. And it could be as many as 10 minutes, depending on the inlet pressure, right? So you're sending that high TDS water from the RO membrane through your DI filter and out. And you never really think about it because no one likes to talk about this phenomenon of TDS creep, but it's basically where the good water and the bad water inside the housing are now present together, and it has to flush that out. It has to go somewhere. It doesn't go out the bypass port. It goes through your permeate tube. And then what happens next is it takes a few minutes for the RO membrane to kind of fluctuate and start to drop. So, a lot of custom systems that we've built over the years will have TDS creep systems built in, because on all those systems, you've got onboard monitoring and stuff. Ed Kuvleski is a good example. We've built out a number of vans for him over the years, and every one of them has TDS creep. They turn on their inline TDS meter, the water's coming through, they see it's 200. I mean, you could be somewhere where it's 600. That's going to go through your DI filter at first, right?
Yeah.
It just diminishes the return on it. So by being able to send that high TDS water out of this tube and keep an eye on it until it drops, then throwing it into DI mode, you really will extend the life of your DI resin, adding a lot of value to that filter and your cost per gallons, which is why we called it the DI saver system.
Yeah. Great explanation. I see this more and more as people use their systems more. Maybe second year they say, I'm going through my DI faster, and it's usually because they're just increasing the usage of their system, and so it's kind of a compounding effect. Maybe one or two jobs it's sending that extra high water in there, higher TDS. It's not going to really affect it much, but as you use it more and more, you're going to see that it's going to cost you more in DI resin. So this is a great option for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. Thanks, Rodney, for saying great info. Yeah, we enjoy getting out here and just informing everyone in the industry. All right, let's go into also we updated just a note here, updated the ultimate residential kit. So pretty much all the accessories are the same, but now we have the Rival V2 in that kit. So another part of the update to the Rival is in other systems would be the RO technology. Can we go into that about this? You've brought this out before, the variable flow technology.
Yeah, real quick before I do that, Rebecca, who is standing by, who's our marketing director, who many of you have met on the show. Rebecca, do you mind bringing that award in here so I can touch on that? The one that we got at the ISCA show? Thank you so much. Yeah, so variable flow technology. So, the RO membrane industry is an interesting world. I would imagine, it's super competitive. As soon as you think you have the best thing, someone comes out with it. Whether or not it is the best, can it even be measured, right? Like what is going on? But thank you so much. But the latest and greatest, right? So through our relationships that we've had over the last 15, 20 years in this industry, we keep an eye on what is the latest and greatest, right? And we've done business with the same companies for that long because we want access to the best. And, last year we introduced, or the year before, a membrane called the Max Flow. And the Max Flow has been very well received, puts out a lot of water, especially when you are under pressure. Basically what we've had over the last couple of years is what we call the Rival series, which is systems built to Tucker standard, meant to hit a price point, right? So if you look at our Rival cart, that's our lowest price point cart. Mm-hmm. We don't skimp on it, but it's meant to be competitive in the competitive space, right? So we had a membrane that hit a price point And we still offer those, the Rival Series membranes. And then we had the Max Flow, which is basically fairly expensive compared to anything else on the market, but it was the best technology at the time. And things move very fast in that world. What we have been offered and are starting to offer through the website, and it's standard in the Rival V2 right at launch, is what is being called the Max Flow membrane with variable flow technology. So a bit of a mouthful, but essentially what this means is, most membranes will perform optimally at a set pressure. They're engineered to go into a system, and that system is going to work at XYZ pressure, right?
Yeah.
So if you had a 100 PSI pump on a system, you'd want to have a 100 PSI membrane in there because it's made for that pressure. A 50 PSI system, if you put a 100 PSI membrane on there, it's not going to perform quite as well as this variable flow technology. And so you have these different pressure ratings across the membrane world. Well, this variable flow technology essentially is branded as the ability to get the maximum output at any pressure rating. So they're not made for 60 PSI, 80 PSI, 100 PSI, 220 feet, whatever that rating may be that you're used to seeing. They're not made to hit a rating. They're made to perform at their optimum at regardless of the rating. Now, this doesn't mean that at 50 PSI, you're going to get the water out of it that you would get if you put 100 in it. It just means that at 50, it's going to perform better than any other membrane at 50. So we've started putting those into the V2s already, and you can find them on our website. They're actually a lower price point than the Max Flow membranes have been for a number of reasons. One being where they're manufactured, another being volume that we've committed to make sure we can get these at a good price point. But this is a 21-inch version here. You'll see the Tucker brandings on there. You've got our part numbers, flow arrows, all those kinds of things. And while we're talking about membranes, I want to touch on something that comes up here a lot when people buy a replacement 40-inch membrane. This is a 21, just for the sake of handling here. But 40-inch membranes come with this adapter in the box, okay? So you guys have probably all seen this if you've replaced a membrane in a 40-inch system. Now, what this is designed to allow you to simply put this on to a permeate tube on one 40-inch membrane and then join another one, right? So not really anything we're doing in our industry. So you should toss this out. The only thing that you might find value in this is there's some O-rings in here that if you find a way to get them out, you might be able to replace with the ones that are in all the stainless housing caps. So maybe keep it for extra O-rings in case one of these gets damaged, which is, again, fairly rare. But that's what this is for. So the only other thing that I want to touch on with membranes right now in the podcast is the brine seal. So on one end of every membrane that we sell, there's a black brine seal or a white one, depending on the where it's been manufactured for us. And so brine seals are meant to seal inside the housing, and they're not round on the profile. Okay. So it's not like an O-ring where the profile is round. It's actually shaped at a bit of a 45-degree angle. And this is the inlet end. You want to feed the RO on this side. And the flow arrow is pointing down on the label, right? So the reason you want to feed it on this end is when you pressurize the membrane, and not on center, you want to feed off center, but you feed this end. So when you pressurize here, what happens is that 45 gets pushed out towards the inside wall of the membrane housing, and that helps to form that seal internally under pressure, right? So on both sides, you're creating that seal all the way around, and it's helping to keep the water where it needs to be inside to do its job as a membrane. If you feed it from the wrong direction, right? Feed it from the other end, or you manipulate this brine seal and you flip it upside down. So now that it's like this, essentially, what's going to happen is water will come through and it will push that brine seal away from the wall of the inside of the housing, and bad water will get past and then flow right through your DI and ruin your DI filters a lot faster. So that's a bit of a brine seal lesson, if you will, but those are not those are not, bidirectional. You have to send it one way, and it's because of the 45-degree angle that's built in.
Yeah. So on most of our carts, like our rival, the way we install it or have the water feed into it, so it's going to be on the top. So when we do it in the factory, when we tell people replacing their membranes, make sure that the brine seal is the last thing that slides in there. Because to your point, if you try to feed it the other way, obviously it's wrong direction, but then it's going to fold that brine seal over on itself. And one, you're not going to be really able to get it in there that way. But I'll give you a whole bunch of issues.
Yeah.
Another thing. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to. So Alex was at the ISCA show,
Right?
International Solar Cleaning Academy. Steve Williams event. I was in Florida at a pressure washing event, but we were awarded. It's kind of tough to see, maybe with the black background. We were awarded the Distributor of the Year award in the solar panel cleaning world. So pretty cool. Definitely a team effort here. To do that. So bravo to the team. We obviously have an incredible staff, building systems, customer support, sales, etc. So that was great to see him come home with that for the team here. So quick mention and bravo for those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing before we get off the topic of ROs, I did want to highlight this. And every time we talk about this, it comes to mind. Sometimes you'll get people call in about, obviously they're looking at certain price points, or they mention Amazon. Always pay attention to the pressure ratings, the requirements. They're not all apples to apples. Some require 250 PSI, right?
Yeah.
So make sure you're getting ones that would be for our industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, it's almost 4:00 again. Wow, we go through this pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But now that it's wintertime, this is kind of off topic, but many are having more and more time to actually work on their business instead of in it. So, this sometimes people wonder what we are doing to grow our knowledge. So a couple months ago, I recommended an audiobook, Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time. I think I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, great book.
Yeah. What other books are you listening to now?
I've been listening to The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek a bit on repeat. For me, it just really kind of solidified what I've already been doing. Like if you see me say something like, you can't beat us, I want everybody to win. Right? Like that kind of mindset, the pie's big enough for everyone. Right. But it also gets into things like saying in business, best or lowest price or whatever. Like these are things you really can't measure. Right. You say in airline world or anything, it's like the number one rated airline. Okay, well, where's the asterisks and the metrics, right? It gets into a lot of different scenarios like that where you can kind of look at that. And the idea here is business is an infinite game, right? If Tucker's in the game or not, business goes on forever. And so what we do while we're in the game is the most important thing, right? What's going to be our purpose? Where's our impact going to be? It's certainly not going to be to advertise that we're the cheapest or even the best. I mean, I don't like to go out and do that. We are competing with ourselves from that standpoint, and that's an infinite game mindset, right? Yeah. A finite game is like a sporting event where there's like a beginning and an end.
Yeah,
I don't intend the game to ever end. Right. I'm going to go on forever. The players certainly change. People come and go. People act differently within the infinite game in terms of the way competition works. But business goes on forever. And so how you act and conduct yourself within that is really about what this is about. And there's an interesting story in there where Simon does this talking thing, and he gets they give him a Microsoft Zoom, I think it was called, right? Yeah. And when the Microsoft Zoom came out, this is like when the iPod was still there. So he ends up in a cab, if I remember the story right, with, one of the Apple top executives or whatever. And he says to him, hey, I got to tell you, this Zoom is better than the iPod.
Yeah.
And the guy says, I have no doubt. Essentially like that, right? He's just like, no big deal. He's not in an argument. He doesn't, but he knows that he's not competing with Microsoft, right? Apple is always competing with Apple to get better every day. And that's what my approach is here, right? We're competing with ourselves every day. I would be willing to bet, and my intention and my hope is that this becomes a standard piece of equipment on everyone's systems because of what it adds, right?
Yeah.
This adds value to the industry, in my opinion, in terms of the savings and everything else it does for the end user. So what are we going to do next, right? If other companies adopt what we do today, that's awesome. That's for the best for the end user and for the industry as a whole. And, you know, the Apple exec knew that they were just about to launch the iPhone, right? So he's like, I'm sure they do. Little did Simon Sinek know at the time that they were about to change the world, right? So certainly not world-changing events within our headquarters like that, but it's a good approach and a good way to kind of look at competition from that standpoint.
Yeah, I loved listening to that book. It was eye-opening. Rodney, I'll be ordering the V2 residential kit on Black Friday.
Very cool. Thank you for your business.
Touch on the sale on that.
Yeah, the Ultimate Residential Kit is currently $27.99. Now, when you look at the value of that kit, it's $4,000+ worth of stuff, right? And we put that kit together, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago. And this is another one of those things where it's like, you put this kit together, it makes total sense, and now there's other ones.
Yeah.
Right? It's what's for the best for the industry is the way that I look at it. It's a heck of a value. And you know, I would scoop them up at Black Friday pricing, regular pricing. Either way, you're saving a ton of money versus a la carte kit bundling.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Can we show this? Patrick McCleary, one of our brand ambassadors, says, I'm thankful for you guys on top of all this technology. Grateful I have reliable equipment. I can just hook up my hoses and rock out. And has always been the case. Same thing when I was out cleaning. Just get to work. Focus on the work, not on the equipment breaking down all the time. So
yeah, absolutely.
So thank you.
Go make money, enrich your lives, take care of your families.
Absolutely. All right, just to recap, this is available to watch later at our Facebook page, RHG-Tucker Pole Systems, and our YouTube channel at Tucker_USA. So if you head over, make sure you like our business page, head over to YouTube. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I think we're just about nearing 1,000 subscribers, so it's a great goal for us to have 1,000 subscribers. If you haven't reviewed us on Google, please do so. Reaching our goal for the end of the year, getting close to it. Just a reminder, we have our Black Friday sale, Cyber Monday, what have you. It's on now. So it's a recap of that. It's our BOGO brushes and 20% off the following screen cleaners: DI resin buckets, Rival Basic, poles, water-fed poles, our Tucker 4060, and our Tucker H2 Pro. So we certainly thank you all for joining us this week on episode 13, The Next Big Thing. We invite you back next week for episode 14. We'll be discussing winterization. Take care, everyone.
We'll see you then. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.